the same manager as the great Jimi Hendrix. So any gigs that, or tours that Jimmy was doing, we got to play support. So that was really special to see Hendrix in full flight, you know. It was stunning altogether. And I came back and I joined a traditional Irish band, sort of a folk band. And we had gone to England and did the Cambridge Folk Festival, gigs like that. And in the hotel was Joe Cocker and Chris Stanton. And Joe was looking for a guitar player, and I had heard Margarine, a great single that Joe had out prior to meeting him, and the voice was stunning. Anyway, he asked if I would go down for a little bit of a jam, and I did. And I left the traditional end of the group I just mentioned, Swedish Men, and I left them in a bit of a lurch, really. And I joined up with Joe, and he was doing his first album, and there was Steve Winwood, Jimmy Page, all these people that I'd only ever heard of, you know, and were in awe of, you know, coming from Ireland. And when we toured up and down England, of course, and bits and pieces in Europe, and then Joe had great success with a Beatles song, With a Little Help from My Friends, and that was, it was Jimmy Page that played that lick, and, but anyway, we did the first album, and that opened the doors for America. And we came to America and did like 9-month tour. We did a couple of tours of America and stuff, and we got to do Woodstock as well. And of course, that was something else. You know.
That must have been phenomenal, because there was nothing like that before.
No, and we didn't realize that it was so big an event, but as folks would know, the only way to get into the stage area was by helicopter. And everyone, all the bands were flown in, hung around for half an hour, did your spot, came off, hung around a little bit more, got into the helicopter again, were flown out, and then we were off again doing like the Atlanta Pop Festival and stuff like that all around the country. But it wasn't until it was all over that we realized how big this event was, and that it would continue because of the whole power of the music, you know. But I think it was the end of the sort of the hippie period for those couple of years, and then you had Altamont and all that sort of stuff with the Stones and what have you.
It must have been wild, though, for you as a young man. Like, how old were you at that time, like in 69?
24, 25.
Yeah, you were just still a kid, and you're playing in front of all those people. And of course, as you say, you don't realize you're making history. But that must have been one of those oh wow moments. Like, how did I get from Ireland to here, you know?
Well, it still ceases to amaze me, to be honest, you know. But it was really, really special. And it was great to do all that stuff.
And it was documented so well in the Woodstock film, and so that's part of history. We'll never forget that festival. And I honestly think Joe Cocker's performance with you in that band were one of the highlights of an incredible festival. Would you agree?
But we had toured for so long with Joe, and I guess we were getting a little bit stale. You know, we didn't have much time for rehearsal, and that end of it didn't come into it very much. But behind the scenes, Danny Cordell, Leon Russell, they had taken Joe aside and said, you know, forget the Grease band, come to America on your own, and Leon will put this band together, Mad Dogs and Englishmen. And anybody that would have seen the movie Mad Dogs and Englishmen they would have noticed that it almost killed Joe Cocker. It really did, you know, the Mad Dogs and English material, but there was a clatter of people on it. That was, and the Grease Band were really left in a bit of a lurch. And we did a couple of albums. We did the first and second Grease Band album. And, but it didn't do very much for us. But what it did do, it left us where we could go off and do sessions as the Grease Band. It was the Grease Band that did Jesus Christ Superstar and all the rest of it. So we did a lot of sessions to make a week's wages, so to speak, you know. Joe went off to America and stayed, and eventually the Grease Band sort of were doing different things individually, and slowly we split up eventually, you know. And I came back to America with a great Scottish singer called Frankie Miller. I don't know.
It was great.
Frankie was great.
I didn't know you played with Frankie. That's great.
Frankie was great. And we came and toured America and sort of stayed for a little while. And to finish that Frankie Miller thing, he was writing songs with Joe Walsh from the Eagles. And he had been in Germany doing gigs with the band, and he left. The guys got off in London, and Frankie went on to New York to finish off the writing that they were doing with Joe Walsh. And he walked into the hotel room and had a severe stroke. And he's now in a wheelchair and can't talk or anything, you know. The great thing about it, he had a co-write on the Eagles' last album with Joe Walsh, which brought him in a little bit of money, and it took him to places he wanted to go to, India and stuff, and try and get well, which was an impossibility because of the severity of the stroke, you know.
He was so underrated and pretty much forgotten by most music fans, but I always felt that Frankie and the band, now I know you were part of that band, was such a precursor to the pub rock stuff that came later. Elvis Costello,
right.
Nick Lowe, Graham Parker, those guys, that Frankie was just one step ahead of that.
Yeah, he was, but he played that circuit,
yeah.
You know, in and around London. The Hope and Anchor in the start of the pub rock thing in England, and Frankie was very much a part of that.
Right, yeah, and a lot of R&B influence too.
That's right.
And I'm proud to say our radio station played Frankie Miller records, which means I was playing you before I knew who you were, so that's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
He was brilliant, and thankfully he was able to get some reward for all that he had done. He had songs recorded by Rod Stewart and a lot of famous people, and he made a little bit of money, but it sort of dwindled away, and then when he had his stroke and everything, it sort of took him off the road. But he came up, I was doing some gigs up in Scotland, and he came to the gig, and I hadn't seen him since 1976 or something, you know. Our paths hadn't crossed, and he was pushed in with his wheelchair into the gig, and I saw him coming, and I knew he was coming. And it certainly just brought a tear to my eye, you know, and to Frankie, he was in his wheelchair and he couldn't speak or anything, so it was difficult to be around him with nothing. I didn't know what to say to him about anything other than just general talk, you know. And that was the end of that. And he was probably one of the best rock and roll singers that I've worked with. Joe was fantastic, an R&B singer, blues singer. But I think the Mad Dogs and the Englishman not only half killed Joe Cocker, but I think it did something to his voice where the power that he had in the early days, it wasn't quite the same.